This is a podcast designed for BCD people with BCD people. On this show, we're celebrating the diverse workplace cultures and connecting people across functions with our most confident self-colleagues. So come on, let's go have some fun as we feed our future learning about the business, each other, and life at BCD. Tresina, welcome to the call this week. I am so excited to do Life with BCD on the podcast with you.
Sounds great, Chica. Thank you so much for inviting me onto the podcast.
Now, Tresina, you and I've known you since you joined BCD, I think it was around May last year, and would love to give you a chance to kind of talk about, as an outsider looking in, and then your first few months here at the company to now, what is the vision for the talent acquisition arm of BCD?
So, Chica, that's a really interesting question. I just was talking to some of our team members about what direction we want to take and, just how we see things evolving in the TA space. And the hope is that we actually start to unify our practices and our processes across the business. So that includes business units as well as our regional remit. We really want to make sure that what we're doing, how it's seen internally and externally, that it's seamless and that hiring managers and candidates all have an elevated experience.
So you're talking about the experience from a candidate outside that's not even part of BCD, that there's some sort of experience they're still having on our website or interacting with the recruitment teams. Are they called recruitment teams anymore? But that's what you're leaning into right there, right?
You're exactly right, Chica. So folks are recruiting, but they will be called talent acquisition professionals moving forward. We're still working on framing up what those titles look like, but in our operating model, our focus is to be more strategic, and that takes us into that talent acquisition space that really focuses on having more consultative behaviors and really understanding what the market's demands are, as well as the needs of the business are.
So as a listener, I'm sure every one of our listeners has applied for a job and then gone through a whole process of getting the job. Tresina, if you could paint the ultimate Monet right now, or Mona Lisa, as to what you want that experience to look like, could you maybe just walk us through step by step from the posting of the job, or maybe even before that, I don't even know, to when the person gets hired? Maybe walk us through what your perfect experience would be for a candidate.
Externally. Oh, sure, Chica. That's a great question, because that's the one thing that we're trying to drive is that experience. So I would say that it's really that collaboration starting with the hiring manager and the TA professional and HR, that all three are working dynamically together to understand what the needs of the business are, what the market currently is demanding, what the specific job and culture will be for that particular candidate. Are they going to be working on a client site? Are they actually going to be working from their home? So they understand how they can be integrated into BCD before they actually even take on that opportunity. We want, when they go to our career site, for them to be well informed about what positions are available. We want to provide candidate information from the hiring manager and from the talent acquisition team members to be congruent. And for there not to be confusion as to what the actual responsibilities of the job are. We want a candidate to know exactly how long will this process generally take. If there are shifts in that, what do those shifts mean? If there's going to be impacts to the hiring manager that may have come from the executive team or just from shifts in the business or in the industry, that all of those things are explained by the talent acquisition professional. If there are data points that need to be shared from a salary perspective with the hiring manager and the candidate, that those things are happening in tandem, and that people feel as though, if I'm hiring in Mexico, or if I'm hiring in Canada or in Singapore, that I am still getting the BCD experience.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, so that's really where we're going. We're working really closely with our partners in M&E, Avito, Hoteling Solutions. Our business is dynamic and things are changing on a constant basis. So we want to make sure that what we do as talent acquisition professionals sells the organization In the past, TA was seen kind of as administrative. You hand us a role, we post it out, and then we wait to see what comes back, and then we share that with the hiring manager, and they do all the work. Well, our responsibility today is to commit to driving that relationship. So we're the ones hand-holding the candidate through the experience, and once we hand them off to onboarding and to the culture boarding piece, they feel well informed and they don't feel lost in who BCD is, and that's what I'm looking forward to, and I think we're gradually getting there. One of the things that I've seen recently, Chika, is just the level of excitement from the HR folks who have now been transitioned into talent acquisition. They're excited about what they're able to do. They've recently seen the new EVP rolled out. Woohoo! Hats off to you and to Liz for those efforts. It's funny, we know that there are the 3 C's now, right? So
yeah, you're leading in. And let me pause you right there for our listeners who are like, EVP, what is that? Maybe you could give us a quick overview as to, firstly, not necessarily what it is, but why do we want one as a company? And then we can lean into how important it is, the messaging around it.
Sure. So EVP is our employment value proposition. So that's what we say to the market. This is who we are, and what we represent as an organization. The way that we attract talent and retain talent are all representative in our EVP. And so recently there was, I would think probably about 6 months effort to look at what we are doing as an organization, how we're seen around the globe, what's important to us, and what's the tissue that connects us. And so what we found is that there were 3 particular areas that were consistent across all of BCD as how we go to market, and those 3 C's are what we determined were the right 3 representative words to capture who we are, and that was to connect, to collaborate, and then to celebrate. And I mean, to me, they were really easy to remember. And they were also things that really really captured the essence of the organization, right? Is that it's important for us all to work as one. So that's the connectivity. Collaboration means that we're not just doing it by ourselves. We're not just independent organizations or organisms all calling ourselves BCD, but we are actually organisms that are working together as one. And then to celebrate that, celebrate that in our lives, what we do for the community. It really, really speaks to the essence of the culture of BCD. And so it's exciting for us to see how can we start to look at that in our brand pitches, our employment brand pitches, as well as our career site, our talent communities that we're building right now, in our social media spaces, in our communication to candidates and to hiring managers. How do we continuously reinforce those 3 concepts?
Yes.
So I'm ecstatic. I think the team is. We've just had so many exciting things happening this year, Chika, and you've been an integral part of that. So I know you're quite aware, but we're looking forward to the rest of the business partnering, understanding that all of us at BCD are actually the quote unquote recruiters, and the talent acquisition professionals are really the folks who help to drive and connect all all those activities and share them out with the world.
Thank you for painting a really clear picture there, Tresina. The Connect, Collaborate, Celebrate, we talked about that a few episodes ago in I think it was episode 52 of the podcast with Jen Wood and Life at BCD, and now you're saying it here under the talent acquisition. And I hope that for all of our listeners, you just received just today, it doesn't matter what day you listen to this, but just today came out the message from our CEO, President, boss man, Mr. John Snyder, talking about all of this and how it wraps into all of the recent investments that we've done, from the digital tools to things like OneTouch, MySource, MS Teams, SuccessFactors, Agent Source. I mean, all of the last 10 episodes that we've recorded on this podcast blend together, using the EVP. And like Tresina said, even the work we're doing moving forward now within the employee base of employee experience helps us connect better, collaborate better, and celebrate, which is, again, part of the purpose of this podcast. So thank you, Tresina. That's very, very clear. Coming back to TA, as we digress into big strategy feature, coming back to TA, maybe you can, without necessarily labeling names, just give us a perspective. If I'm a hiring manager and I'm working with your team, where is your team? Is it a massive team of hundreds of TA specialists around the world, or are we talking just a real tight unit of professionals?
Well, I would consider it to be a pretty tight unit of professionals right now, Chica. So what we have is four operational, regionally based talent acquisition leads who are helping to drive and coordinate activities across those regions. And they're all doing it, of course, under the global umbrella, so that we stop having some of this, some confusion, I think. As we went through the digital transformation last year, and also tended to be more of a globalized organization, we saw some opportunities or some gaps there, where we could actually look at the business and say, hey, how do we do this more smartly? How do we start to create a synergy and provide hiring managers with an opportunity to easily connect the dots when it comes to hiring? So what you'll see in the upcoming months, we've got a 22-week transformation that we kicked off most recently with the project teams, after we did a extensive diagnostic of all of the regions. And what that's going to breed is, like I said, more synergy and understanding for the hiring managers, so that they're not, if I have to hire again in one country versus the other, I'm not confused.
Right.
But those regional leads now have support structures underneath them in each one of the regions, where there's a country TA representative in each, identified in each country, who will be the person who should be contacted if there are issues. And we will, of course, have that on my source and available to any of the hiring managers or other HR professionals who need to quickly identify a resource to assist them with talent acquisition.
What up, BCD? This is Chicky coming at you, saucier than a Shakira Super Bowl halftime special. Oh my goodness, what a time to be at BCD. I mean, as employees, we should be fired up, because as Tresina just mentioned, we've got this EVP that has now shaken some trees, and the leaves that are being raked are in the way of the new values that were put out by our CEO this week, that are really just representative of who we are. And not only that, can really be put into everyday situations in which we work. So if you are yet to look at the values or understand the values or even hear about the values, time to go do some digging. Go ask a friend, share this with a friend, go work with a friend to figure it out. That's the middle part of the EVP, right? Collaboration. So that we can continue to celebrate and connect as employees and better do our work together as one family here at BCD. So with that said, let's get back to the podcast and fire up.
And Tresina, can you, again, just painting big picture perspective here, and I don't know whether you have this data right in front of you, so maybe you can dig for it as we continue to talk.
Per recruiter, and we're well over 40 plus requisitions at any given time for our recruiters. So our talent acquisition professionals. So hats off to them. They do an absolutely fantastic job under the pressure that they are constantly driven by, and the fact that our business is so dynamic. We may get just yesterday I was told that we may have a new client onboarding, and if we get that client, that's 100 hires that have to happen within a 6-week period. So just imagine the turnaround, all of the activity that has to go into that. That means that if we look at a talent acquisition funnel, we usually say 5 times, the multiplier is 5 times the number of hires for the number of applicants. So that's, approximately 500 people. I'll minimize that there for you. 500 people who are actually applying for a job. So they have to screen and look through all of those applicants, whittle that down to about 300 applicants before they send them over to the hiring manager, and then coordinate all the activity that goes along with that. That's any communication about their their knowledge about the company, making sure that they actually are able to come on board to interview, that are we doing video interviews versus in-person interviews?
Whoa.
How many people are involved in an interview? Are they panel interviews? So all of those things have to be thought through, and there's a lot of coordination and effort that goes into that. And so again, Chika, I just say right now we have an absolutely phenomenal team. I think what we really need to provide them is the structure, tools, and resources that will make them much more successful in the upcoming years.
I think that's great perspective, Tresina, especially as a solo hiring manager that has no idea what goes on in the big picture, that I've got to give your team grace as well as mad props, because that's a tremendous amount of, like you said, just balance and cadence and speed that we have to act with purpose to feed the future of our company. Wow. 3,000 plus, right? So let me be selfish for a second and pivot. So here I am, a listener, and I'm like, well, I'd like to maybe see what's out there for my career. I've been here for 6 years. Maybe it's a time for a change. Can you give us, is there any data you have at your fingertips where we talk about internal transfers from the last year or so? And then maybe you can spend some time, Tresina, talking, if I am interested, what are some options for me to keep a pulse on what's available at BCD Travel?
So yeah, sure, no problem, Christian. I'm sorry, Chika. No problem, Chika. That's a great question.
That's funny.
You guys have merged into one for me. So one of the things that I think about is from an external standpoint. Last year we had 2,500, a little bit over 2,500 hires, and internally we did 1,097. And so what that means is, you can see again, that's a huge number of opportunities for our own folks to move from account to account, to be promoted, to just have lots of opportunities. And one of the things that we just recently are starting to look at and to implement is more information on internal opportunities on MySource, where candidates can learn a little bit more about job opportunities that are out there, what's available, but also what it's like to be in those jobs. So that's something that you and I are working on, Chika, that hopefully will be developed very soon. And then for now, you can easily go out to our internal website and see what opportunities are available for you. And we really invite you to do that. We also invite you to refer anyone that you think is like you, because we think we have a great staff and we'd like to have more of people like the people that we already have on board. And then the other piece, Chika, that we think will help as well is that HR is going to be more involved in the approval process moving forward, and they will be making recommendations in tandem with key leaders as to who should be considered for promotion. Not necessarily that person would get the job, but at least they're being identified as a potential, as opposed to us going to the market and if you're interested, you apply. So we may be doing more sharing of candidate internal resources profiles for opportunities, and actually asking you, are you ready to step up and move to the next level? So those are the type of opportunities that we see coming available in the near future.
Tresina, is there a place where, and I think that there is, right? I can go and sign up to get notified if things come available. Did you just mention that?
Yes, you can go to MySource, and actually where in the HR space, there is the opportunity for you to actually apply and keep up with internal positions. And we ask that you actually go do that. So you have to register in order to see the internal positions. And there is a document that is out on the MySource page that will allow you to understand better how to make those make that registration. So I encourage you to do so. If you have any questions about that, please feel free to reach out to your local talent acquisition professional. The ones that you've dealt with in the past should be able to give you some support and direction there.
Fabulous. And I think that also in the performance appraisal this year that there's a spot where you can notify your manager that that's something that you're interested in too. So very, very cool, Tresina. There's a lot going on in your space, and I'm very, very excited to have somebody with your acumen and your charisma and your drive to get things done on our team. It's fantastic. Now, let me take two more questions and then we'll close out for today, Tresina. If you could tell hiring managers, the hiring leaders, one message from your team to them, what would it be?
I would say to them, that we are, that's a great question, Chica. I would say to them that this is a partnership and a collaboration, which again goes back to the 3 C's. And so what we're expecting from you is as much information as you can possibly provide us to make sure that we understand your business, because it's our business to understand the business. And that we are able to articulate that to candidates. We also ask that if you have relationships with universities in the local markets or even your previous university, that you share those with us so that we can use those as also tap points for our recruitment efforts and for our grassroots recruitment. We also ask if you're attending a conference and there is a list of participants, that you share those with your local TA professionals so that they can know better who some of the people are that are actually actively out there in the market space and may be interested in becoming a part of the BCD family. And then the last thing that we ask is that if there are postings that you see on LinkedIn or on your Facebook or your social media, that you share those so that you can help us to attract talent. And then we will take the ball from there if you are willing to do that. And so I just ask that those are the things that we get from you. You will see a hiring manager and candidate satisfaction scorecard that is going to be coming out that will evaluate how we're doing, but also how we're partnering with you as hiring managers, and how candidates felt that experience was actually executed. So we just ask that you guys, are fair and that you share the information. We want to know the good, the bad, and the ugly, because we want to be our best and we want to provide excellent service in the talent acquisition space to all of our leaders and to our external candidates.
Tresina. All right, final question for you before we lock down this podcast. Being a person now that's 8 months deep into your career at BCD, Tresina, how do you best sell BCD to the outside world? Do you have a catchphrase? Do you have, I don't know, how do you sell us to the external candidate?
I talk a lot about the culture, Chica, that I came in as a remote resource, which is a lot of times is difficult to kind of integrate. And I have felt nothing but welcomed. I feel like there's a lot of patience for learning. The fact that we could do a diagnostic as an organization, as a talent acquisition organization, and not have a lot of pressure from the executive team saying, when are things going to happen? But really taking the time to understand what our business is, I think that that's what's happening across our clients. And so to me, that's the win. Yeah. And when I think about BCD, I do think about those 3 touch points that we talked about earlier, that we have a lot of connection, so we connect well, that we collaborate across the organization, across all of the different business entities, across the regions, and that we take a lot of time to have a great time. I unfortunately missed the Christmas party, but I heard you guys had a blast there. And I tell you, I've seen so many videos of people having a good time at BCD, and I am telling you, I love a celebration and I love having a great time. And if you are a person who likes to connect, you like to collaborate, and you like to have a little fun and celebrate in the end, I ask you to join us and share your interest in BCD.
Couldn't have said it better. Tresina Lockhart, thank you so much for your time today, and go team acquisition at BCD.
All right, thanks so much, Chica.